They never thought you would be the one to rise. No, they were so sure you would crumble. They saw you at your lowest, twisted the knife, and laughed as the blood poured. Every tear, every gasp for air was proof to them that they were winning. They looked down on you, thinking you were nothing more than a trembling pawn on their board. But pawns don't stay pawns forever, and they left you no choice. They pushed you into the shadows, thinking you would disappear. They forced you to swallow every insult, endure every humiliation. They wanted you broken, shattered into pieces too small to ever fit back together. Because as long as you were weak, they could keep their thrones. They could stay comfortable, untouchable, but they never saw what those shadows did to you. They thought the darkness would consume you, that the weight of it would crush your spirit. But the darkness didn't break you. It changed you, it shaped you. Every moment spent in silence, every scream swallowed, it forged something within you. The fear they tried to plant in your mind grew roots, but instead of destroying you, it transformed. They were so focused on keeping you down, they never noticed the shift. The trembling hands became steady, the broken voice grew stronger. The eyes that once looked away now burn with something they can't understand. And now you are the nightmare they tried to bury. They see it, don't they? The way you walk without chains, the way their words no longer pierce the armor you built. They flinch when your name is mentioned. They lower their voices when you enter the room, because they know. They know the storm they created, but they will never admit it. No, they'll pretend you are the villain, that you became something monstrous, twisted by the darkness. They'll whisper about how you changed, how you lost yourself. But the truth is they fear what they cannot control. They fear the reflection staring back at them, a reminder of every twisted choice they made, because you did what they could never do. You faced the abyss. You didn't run. You didn't beg. You stood there, eyes wide open, and let it consume you. And when it tried to devour you whole, you tore it apart from the inside. The pain they inflicted became your strength. Every betrayal became fuel, every scar a reminder that you survived. And now they fear you. They fear the strength that rises in your voice. They fear the power that burns in your eyes. Because you are no longer the one they toy with, you are no longer the one who begs for mercy. No, they are the ones who now tremble. But fear isn't the enemy they thought it was. They wanted you afraid, because fear is easy to control. Fear keeps people small, but what they never realized is that fear can be a weapon. Fear can sharpen the soul, make it untouchable. And now they stand before you, knowing that their laughter will never echo the same way again. They called you weak. They called you fragile. But it was their fear all along, because you became the one thing they swore could never exist. You became unstoppable, and the best part, you didn't need their permission. You didn't wait for approval. Every step forward was your own. Every victory was forged by the hands they tried to bind. But the story isn't over. No, they're still watching, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll stumble, that the shadows will pull you back down. But you know better. You know that the chains they placed on you were never as strong as they pretended. They thought the cage was impenetrable, but you broke through it. And now, there's no cage that can hold you. They left you no choice. They forced you to rise. And now, as they scramble to reclaim the control they've lost, all they can do is watch. They'll try to rewrite the story, paint themselves as the victims, but no matter how they twist the narrative, they can't escape the truth. You are not their pawn. You are not their fool. You are the reckoning they never saw coming. And every step you take, every triumph you seize, it will remind them they left you no choice, and now they live with the consequences. They see it now. The cracks in their reality. Every time they thought they had you cornered, you slipped through. Every chain they wrapped around you has shattered. And now the ones who once laughed at your pain are choking on their own fear. They wanted to break you. That was the plan all along. It was never about teaching you a lesson or making you stronger. No, it was about control. They wanted to reduce you to nothing. A husk, a shadow of yourself, something they could sneer at to remind themselves how powerful they were. But they underestimated you. They saw your suffering and mistook it for weakness. They heard the cracks in your voice and thought they were winning. But every trembling moment, every shattered piece of you was part of something they didn't understand. Because what they thought was the end of you was only the beginning. You learned how to crawl through the darkness, how to find light when there was none. The pain they inflicted didn't break you. It revealed you. It stripped away every illusion, every false belief that kept you chained. You saw the world for what it truly was, and more importantly, you saw them. You saw the fear behind their smiles, the desperation hidden beneath their arrogance. They needed you broken because the thought of you standing tall terrified them. You were their mirror, a reflection of everything they tried to suppress. Because if you could endure, if you could rise, then it meant they had no excuse. But they'll never face that truth. Instead, they'll point their fingers. They'll say you changed. They'll call you cold, ruthless, dangerous. And maybe you are, but not in the way they think. You didn't become a monster. You became free, free from their judgment, free from their control. And freedom, that's what terrifies them most. Because now they know they can't hurt you the same way. The words they once wielded like weapons are dull and useless. The laughter that once echoed in your mind has been silenced. Every insult they spat only strengthened your resolve. And now their fear tastes like ash. But they'll never admit it. No, they'll try to convince themselves that you're still beneath them. They'll cling to their stories, their lies. They'll gather in their little circles and whisper your name, pretending that their words still have power. But deep down, they know the truth. Every time they see you, that fear creeps back in. The memories of what they did, the choices they made, it all comes flooding back. And no matter how much they try to hide it, it shows in the way their eyes dart away, in the forced laughter that rings hollow, in the silence that lingers when your name is mentioned. Because they remember the times they pushed you down, the times they gloated, certain that you would never rise. And now they watch in disbelief as you stand tall. The chains they forged for you are gone. The cage they built lies in ruins, and in its place stands something they never thought possible. You, not the shattered version they tried to create, not the hollow echo they wanted you to become, but the real you, the one they feared all along. Because you didn't rise out of vengeance. You didn't claw your way back just to watch them suffer. No, you rose because there was no other choice. They left you no choice, and that is what haunts them. Because when they see you now, they don't see a victim. They see a survivor, a force of nature, proof that every scheme they spun, every lie they told failed. And that failure, it is unbearable. They were supposed to be the victors, the ones who walked away unscathed. But now they are the ones left in the shadows, and they will try to convince themselves otherwise. They will paint over the cracks, call themselves the heroes. But the cracks remain, and every time they see you, they will remember. But you don't live in their shadows anymore. You no longer wait for their approval, nor crave their validation. You walk forward, untethered. The chains they tried to bind you with are nothing but distant memories, and that is your greatest victory. They wanted you afraid. They wanted you to believe that without their acceptance you were nothing. But now they see the truth. You are everything they could never be. Strong, unbreakable, and free. And that freedom, it terrifies them. Because no matter how hard they try to pretend otherwise, they know They know that the day they pushed you too far, they created something they could never control. They wanted you to be the fool, the weakling, the victim, but instead they created their greatest fear. And now, with every step you take, that fear grows, because you became something unstoppable. Not because you wanted to, not because you sought revenge, but because they left you no choice. They never thought it would come to this. The ones who laughed so easily now avoid your gaze. The ones who spoke with such authority now stammer when your name is mentioned. They believed they could shape you, mold you into whatever suited their game. But what they didn't understand was that no one stays a pawn forever. You see it, don't you? How their confidence has rotted away. How the people who once dismissed you now watch you from the shadows. They tell themselves they're still in control, but the cracks in their facade are impossible to hide. The fear they tried to plant in you has twisted back toward them, and they know it. They were so certain that you would never rise. Every insult, every betrayal was designed to keep you down. They threw words like chains, hoping to bind you forever. But what they didn't count on was your resilience. They didn't realize that the more they tried to crush you, the stronger you became. And now they live with the consequences, because every scar they left on you is a reminder of their failure. They wanted you to believe that you were powerless, that without their approval, you were nothing. But what they failed to see is that power isn't something they get to define. Power is survival. Power is rising after every fall. And you embody both. They watch you now with a mix of awe and terror. They see the strength that radiates from you, the confidence they once tried to break, and it terrifies them, because they know they can't stop you. Every word they spat, every scheme they pulled only made you more dangerous. But the funniest part, they're still pretending. They cling to their masks, desperate to convince the world that they're unbothered, that their hands are clean. But the weight of their lies grows heavier by the day. Every time they see you, it cracks their carefully constructed facade. Because no matter how much they try to convince themselves otherwise, they know the truth. You are not the person they tried to destroy. You are something far greater. They wanted to make you small, to clip your wings and lock you away. But instead you grew. You shed every label they forced upon you. You burned away every trace of their control. And now you stand as a reminder of everything they feared most. They fear your strength. They fear your clarity. But most of all, they fear your indifference. Because they expected your rage. They wanted you to lash out, to become consumed by the bitterness they planted. That would have made you easy to control. It would have given them a narrative, a reason to justify the harm they caused. But instead you did the one thing they never expected. You let go, not for them, not for their comfort, but for yourself, because you understand something they never will. True power doesn't come from revenge. It comes from freedom, from knowing that nothing they do can shake you, from walking away without a single glance back. And that is their greatest punishment. They will never understand how you did it, how you emerged from the wreckage they caused without losing yourself. They will search for explanations, convincing themselves that it must have been luck or circumstance. But you know the truth. You earned every step forward. You stood in the depths of your own pain and refused to let it define you. Every tear they mocked, every moment they celebrated your suffering, it all became fuel. You rebuilt yourself from the ashes, piece by piece, until there was nothing left of the person they once controlled. And now they are powerless. The people who once reveled in your downfall now flinch at your presence. They feel the weight of their choices pressing down on them. The words they hurled so carelessly echo back into their ears. And no matter how tightly they cling to their pride, they cannot escape the truth, because you became their fear, not through malice, not through destruction, but simply by existing, by surviving. Every breath you take, every step you conquer is a reminder that they failed. They set out to break you, to reduce you to nothing, but instead they created a force they cannot control, and they will never be free of that fear. It lingers in the silence after their laughter dies. It haunts the corners of their mind when they close their eyes, because no matter how much they try to forget, your existence remains a testament to their downfall. But you are free. You no longer walk with the weight of their judgment. You no longer flinch at the echoes of their words. The chains they wrapped around you have been shattered, leaving nothing but the strength they tried so desperately to steal. And the world sees it. They see the way you stand, the way your presence commands attention. The ones who once dismissed you now speak your name with uncertainty, because they know that the story they tried to write is no longer theirs to control. You are not their victim, you are their reckoning. And the most poetic part of all, they have no one to blame but themselves. And now, here you are. The final act has begun. The stage they built for your downfall has become the setting of their own undoing. The crowd that once cheered for your humiliation now watches in silence. Because the joke they thought would last forever, it's over. They can't hide from it. Every smug little word, every twisted laugh, it all comes crashing down. The echoes of their mockery still linger, but they no longer carry the weight they once did. Because they see you now. The chains they swore would bind you forever have been broken. The prison they built was never strong enough to contain what you've become, and that terrifies them. You are no longer the one who bows, no longer the one who pleads for understanding or validation. They forced you to stand alone, thinking isolation would break you. But in that solitude you found something they never expected. You found yourself, the person they tried to erase, the voice they tried to silence. It all came roaring back, and now they fear that voice. They fear the strength that rises with every word you speak. They fear the presence that commands the very space they thought you'd never occupy. You have become the embodiment of everything they tried to destroy. Not a monster, not a villain. No, something far worse in their eyes. You became untouchable, but don't mistake their fear for guilt. They won't apologize, they won't admit the truth. That would require a strength they never possessed. Instead, they'll rewrite the story. They'll claim they never meant to hurt you. They'll twist the past, painting themselves as misunderstood victims. Anything to convince themselves they weren't the architects of their own downfall. But the truth, it lingers. It's in the way their hands tremble when you pass, in the way their laughter falters, knowing it no longer holds power. They may pretend to forget, but the memories haunt them. Because no matter how much they lie, they can't escape what they did. And they can't escape what you became. You are not the broken soul they left behind. Every scar they inflicted, every wound they laughed at became the foundation of your strength. You didn't rise in spite of their hatred, you rose because of it. They lit the fire, thinking it would consume you. But instead, it forged you into something unbreakable. And now they see it. They see it in the way you stand, the way you move without fear. Every glance, every word carries the weight of your survival. And they know that no matter how much they pretend, they will never hold power over you again. But what truly terrifies them is the fact that you don't seek revenge. They wanted you angry. They wanted to see the monster they tried to create. That would have justified their cruelty. If you lashed out, if you sought to destroy them, they could still call themselves the victims. But you moved on. You built your own path. A path they can no longer follow. And that is the punishment they will never escape. Every time they see your name, it will sting. Every victory you claim will remind them of the power they tried to steal. And while they remain shackled to their regrets, you walk free. Not because they allowed it, not because they gave you permission, but because you chose to. They left you no choice. When they cast you aside, they thought they were sealing your fate. They believed their laughter would echo forever. But the only thing left ringing in their ears now is the sound of their own fear. They wake in the night, haunted by the memories of the chains they forged, only to find that those chains no longer exist. And that is your triumph. Not the destruction of their world, not the satisfaction of their suffering, but the simple, undeniable truth that you are no longer bound by them. They thought they controlled the story. They thought they dictated your ending. But they were wrong. You write your own story now, and with every chapter their fear grows. Because they know that no matter how much they try to run from it, they can never outrun the consequences of what they did. Every glance in the mirror brings back the reflection of the people they became. And in that reflection they see you. The one who endured. The one who rose. The one they can never break. So let them fear. Let them cling to the delusions that once gave them power. It no longer matters. Because their fear is not your burden to carry. The shadows they tried to trap you in are behind you now. And as for them, they will live with the truth they tried so desperately to deny. That the fool they mocked became the storm they could never contain. That the chains they forged were nothing but illusions. That every laugh, every word, every cruel game led to this moment. And now, as they stand trembling, they know you became their fear, because they left you no choice.